Hello, hello. Anyone home? I only see your logo, I Dig Trees logo. Hello. Do, 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 do. Can you hear me? That's strange. Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Hello, hello. That's kind of cool.
Hey, there you are.
Oh, hey. Can you hear me? Can you see
Maybe
me?
my signal wasn't strong enough. Let me get something to sit on here.
Oh, I see you.
There I am.
There you go.
Let me get a little shorter.
All right. So now we're talking. This is looking good. Oh, you're on Wi-Fi probably, huh?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, that's probably the problem. All right. Well, so everybody, no one's watching, but we're gonna record this and we're gonna let people see this after the fact. This is Ben Willis with I Dig Trees. Hey Ben, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Seb. How are you?
I'm great. And you know what? I don't know anything about bonsai trees whatsoever, just a little bit that you've told me. And, I just want to really tell me something about bonsai trees. I mean, I know nothing. So, what's the history behind it? Who does it still today? I mean, is it really popular? I mean, just fill us in. Tell us about bonsai trees.
I'm not a total history buff, but some people say it started kind of back in the Buddhism time in China and India, and Buddha would always have this like really magnificent tree that would kind of be a very spiritual part of their religion. And people wanted to, they were so into what he was doing, they wanted to reproduce some of that feelings, and so they started bringing these little trees into their homes and trying to use that to help represent their religious belief. And so the idea was that it's not just a small tree. Bonsai technically means tree in pot. But what we're really trying to do is make something miniature. So we want to represent a really old, magnificent tree that you might find in nature, the one in a million kind of trees in the forest, and replicate that into our bonsai. And so that's where, a lot of people just think bonsai is a little tree, but really, bonsai can be up to 3 or 4 feet tall, and they cover a wide range of species. And really, the older and bigger your tree is, the better quality bonsai it can be. So I kind of started in Japan, and then Japanese took over a couple thousand years ago and really took the art to a new level where they really wanted to get into the displaying the best possible spirit of the tree. So in Chinese bonsai, you'll see figurines, you'll see landscapes, and lots of kind of more unusual things. But in Japan, they kind of stick to just the single tree in the pot, or a forest, or a grouping. And right now, it's growing all over the world. Europe's been pretty big for a while, and the U.S. is kind of behind the rest of the world, but it's gaining in popularity here. People are starting to understand the art a lot better. There is an Artisan's Cup coming up in September this year in Portland, put on by one of the biggest bonsai artists in the country, Ryan Neal, and he's really trying to up the level of bonsai in the United States. And so that's kind of where I am right now, is trying to be a part of that trend to make bonsai better and just get it out to more people. And a lot of people buy the little thing at Home Depot or at the mall or on the side of the road, and they tell you to take it inside, and it's an outdoor tree, and it dies. And there's kind of this myth about bonsai being really difficult, but I don't think it's that hard for anybody to have a bonsai and keep it alive.
All right, great. So, behind you, I see a whole ton of bonsai trees, and they all look kind of different. So, is bonsai not one kind of tree? There's like a variety of trees, or can you show us some and tell me about them?
It really can be almost any kind of tree. Anything that will take a hard woody form, from a boxwood, Japanese maple, a pine tree, a juniper, cypress. Let me look around here. Elms. I've got a wisteria, a walnut, a quince, a dawn redwood, a coastal redwood, hornbeams, beeches, privets. Really a whole range of trees. Almost anything that is tree-like, hard and woody, shrubs, trees, can turn into bonsai.
Is there like a traditional kind of bonsai tree? I mean, like, or is it just really all throughout time people have just used whatever tree they wanted to?
They say that the Cadillac of bonsai is the black pine, and it is regarded as pretty much the highest form of this bonsai art is what you'll see in black pines. Junipers and other pines are pretty much right behind that. But those are the trees you usually see in Japan that have been styled beyond belief, and go for the top dollar and win prizes every year. And it's usually trees in those lines. So the black pines, the junipers, those are the kind of the elites. Maybe some of the maples and stewardias, beeches, things like that.
Okay. Do you happen to have any black pines there behind you, or what do you got there behind you? That's.
I have one here. I don't know how well it'll show up on the screen. This is
It shows up great. I can see it really well, actually.
And right now, this guy is in a growing stage. So you see this exceptionally long branch here.
Right.
And what we're doing with this branch is just trying to let it grow so it will thicken up right here. And I want this to be the heaviest branch on this tree, because it's going to be the lowest branch and it'll be the key branch. So everything else will kind of play off of that branch as you move up the tree. This one here, you can see there's a little bit of a flare coming out at the base, and we actually call that the nabari. And that's one of the first qualities you'll try to develop in bonsai, is that nabari, because it's the one thing that gives it more age than anything else. It'll make it look a lot older. So this is probably a 10-year-old tree, something like that.
That tree's 10 years old?
What's that?
Wow. That tree looks like it's like 6 months old. It's 10 years old?
Well, we got about an inch base here. It may have been taken from a cutting, so it's hard to say. I've had it for a couple of years. It hasn't grown a whole lot in girth, but the branches are growing and developing right now, and I've been kind of working on this one a little bit slowly. Black pines, you work on them much differently than you would any other tree. They're very systematic. You do one thing in the fall, another thing in the summer, a little bit in between, but they're very systematic. You're pulling needles and you're cutting these little shoots that are coming out called the candles right here, and you do it very systematically, and that helps reduce your overall needle size and create back budding, so you get more development in your branches. You always want to have taper going in throughout your tree. It should be widest at the bottom, and every little step along the way should kind of segment into shorter and skinnier little pieces of the tree. And that's what's going to help give it that look of age.
All right, so now what is that bonsai tree sitting in right now? Is that some kind of special bonsai soil, or is it what kind of soil do you use to grow a tree like that?
This soil it's in right now is a mix of lava, pumice, and a hardened clay called akadama that gets imported from Japan. And the clay holds the moisture. The pumice and the lava create a lot of air and drainage, which promotes good root growth. And so, yeah, there's actually no dirt in this soil that I use for my bonsai. Everybody has a little bit of a different mix. Everybody thinks they've struck gold with the one they're using, you know. But really, it comes down to we all treat our trees a little bit differently. We all water a little bit differently. We all have a little bit of a different climate. You know, I've got a huge redwood tree behind my house, and so my watering's a little different than what maybe my neighbor might even do. So once you kind of learn your system and what's working for you, I went through a few different soil mixes, and this is a very traditional mix. You know, it's kind of the traditional Japanese mix. Sometimes they'll vary the levels of the ingredients a little bit, but this will work pretty much for anything. And it creates really good drainage, which keeps healthy roots. You don't want the roots to be sitting in a bunch of water and rotting away, because that's going to be bad for the whole rest of the tree. It all starts down here in the roots. It's the part you can't see that's the most important part of this whole tree. So developing that root system, as well as this nabari, that's one of your first goals in bonsai with any tree that you're working on.
So you are going to move that tree to different pots from time to time, or how often does that tree like change its home?
That tree will get changed, or repot as we call it, every 2 to 5 years for that type of tree. Now, if you want it to grow a little faster, you're going to repot it a little more often. Typically, you want growth on a tree like that to slow down over time, so you'll extend those a little more. Now, something like a maple or a tree that's deciduous that drops its leaves in the fall, they have a much more rapid root growth. So you can repot those every year or two, and if you go much beyond that, the tree will get root bound in the pot, and the health of the tree will start to suffer.
All right, good deal. Well, let me ask you this: do you have any trees that are deciduous there? Like, do you have any maples there that we can see, or I'd be pretty curious, because I've never seen a maple bonsai before.
Here's a little tiny start. Now, this guy doesn't have a whole lot going on, but he's been put into the right soil to start getting the roots to form correctly. And so we'll let the base start to grow out and just let this tree do its thing for now. Some of these branches will get let run for, you know, a period of time, and then after a while, with any luck, it'll start to look more full like this.
Oh, wow.
A little bit of water here.
Wow.
Katsura maple. It's hard to see inside. You can see inside. This is an older tree. This is a tree that's actually the club tree that I'm in, Santa Cruz Bonsai Kai, and I'm caring for it right now.
Wow.
And so
that's cool.
This was really cool. It's kind of green right now. You can see on the top here, but it's a Katsura maple, and when the leaves first come out, they come out in a bright gold, and it's really pretty, but it's just gone past that. And so,
okay.
Yeah, so here's a larger maple. You can see it has a little bit more of a base. And is that in the video there? Where am I? I can't see where the video is.
Yeah, I see the base.
And, a much thicker trunk. So now the trick with this tree is to start working on the branching. And we'll have a demo later this year in the club where someone will come in and show us, you know, what they would do to a tree like this.
Well, now, how old is that tree exactly? How long has that been growing, that one?
That tree is probably more like, you know, I'm not super great on the age of the maples, but I would say it's probably in the 10 to 15 year range.
Okay.
The bark is just starting to gray up a little bit, and that starts to happen around that time. I know from the nursery I bought it from that tree was put in the ground in a field to grow a little faster. Sometimes when people have a young tree and they want to get more growth and age out of it, they'll stick it in the ground so the roots can spread faster and you'll get a little bit quicker growth. I don't have any ground area to dig in at my house, so that's not an option for me, but there's other ways of accomplishing that using bigger pots, bigger soil, things like that.
Okay. Now, does that tree have to stay outside, or can you have that tree or other bonsai trees be inside? How does that work? Are they mostly indoor, mostly outdoor? What's recommended?
They are pretty much mostly outdoor, and especially any junipers, pines, maples, those all need to be outdoors. Some of your tropical trees, excuse me, like perhaps a ficus or a bougainvillea, might survive inside, but typically they won't get enough sun. And also inside the house, it can be warmer, but it's also a lot drier. So the trees can dry out a lot faster, and you just have to be more aware of that. So keeping them inside is not super easy in this area, but it can be done. You know, it definitely can be done. Some people have done it and been successful, but it's definitely not recommended. If you go to our show this weekend, all the trees that you're buying there, those are all outdoor trees.
Okay, I want to talk about your show in a little bit, but before we talk about your show, I'm interested to know about the tools that you use. I mean, do you need like a lot of tools? Was it just like a pair of scissors? I mean, really, all I can remember is Karate Kid, right? When the guy
Yeah.
was like, doing that's like to me like that's like the most I know about bonsai is from watching that little segment. So, what kind of tools do you need? It looks like just scissors, or what else do you need?
I mean, you can start with a basic pair of shears. You'll need a pair of pliers, a pair of wire cutters, uh, and it helps to have a branch cutter. Now, I didn't get any tools ready to show you guys, but there is a quite a large variety of tools. Now I'm doing this about 3 years, and I've been selling tools. I've learned a lot more about them, and every time I pick up a new tool for something, and maybe I've got the same tool in a different size or a different shape, but this one gets into the branches on this tree that much better, and it makes your work you do cleaner, and your tree will respond better that way. So the tools, like we have a guy who comes into our club once a month and gives everybody in the workshop a few minutes of time to work on their trees. And I mean, he probably comes in with 50 tools at least, and different
Wow.
shaped saws and round cutters, angled cutters. I mean, there's a huge variety of stuff that you can get really obsessed with the tool aspect of it.
Sure, you can geek out on the tools, but
Oh
like
yeah.
if you want to get started, like what am I going to be investing in? Like first of all, like if I wanted to get like the black pine or like a maple, like what am I looking at in terms of like buying the tree and then getting some tools? What's that going to set me back just to get started with like one tree?
Well, if you're going to buy like a bonsai that's been refined for a while, it's been in the soil, the roots have been developed, it's been worked on a few years, you're probably going to pay a few $100s for something like that. But a lot of people start out with basically like nursery stock, 1 gallon, 5 gallon nursery stock. So I'm trying to see if I've got one nearby. Not too many. Here's something that's growing in just a black pot right now. This has had some root work done to it, some special root work. This is a Dawn Redwood. But you can pick up stuff from the nursery that looks just like this in a container similar to that and start it on its way to be a bonsai. And you can start working on the top of the tree and then repot it at the right time of the year. There is a right time of year usually to repot most trees. We're just coming out of the season for most of it right now. So you can start with material like that from anywhere from $10 to $50, and you can be well on your way into bonsai. Uh, Really, there's a huge range, of prices for this stuff, and you know, our club's pretty good at having a good range of stuff available. We have a couple auctions a year, which is where you can pick up material a fairly good price, and it helps support the club. And same thing happens at our show this year. We have a pretty good selection of material, and so it's all a matter of what you find. You go to the different clubs, all their shows, then usually there's a member sale area, and usually you can find trees that maybe they're not perfect, but they're great to start working on. One of the things that I did when I started was buy cheaper material, less expensive material, because I was afraid of killing stuff. You don't want to buy your first $300 tree and kill it the next week. You know what I mean?
Right,
So
right.
I've kind of worked up to trees of more value, and right now I'm actually kind of moving trees out of my collection so I can get things that are a little more refined, and because I know I can take care of them now.
All right, so that last tree that you showed us, that was a dawn redwood, you said?
Yeah, a dawn redwood. And if you're not familiar with those, that is a deciduous tree. And the leaves will turn bright, like almost like the color of dawn, this bright orange in the fall. And then they will fall off, unlike the typical redwoods that we see here. And it's really one of the more pretty colors that I've seen on a tree, one of my favorites.
Yeah, that looks like a cool tree. So you're telling me that basically for maybe like $100, I can get like a decent starter tree and like a basic set of tools. Is that fair enough to say?
Yeah, the tools. There's a huge range of tools. You can pay $400 or $500 for a single tool.
Oh wow.
There's a brand of tools called Masakuni from Japan, and they're pretty much the elite standard in tools. And you can spend a very pretty penny on those. But you can also get very good tools in the $30 to $50 range. If you're really on a budget, you can find stuff on eBay fairly inexpensively. But thing I learned, it was smart to buy cheap trees when I started. It wasn't necessarily smart to buy cheap tools. Once you start moving into it, your first few tools is not going to be a big deal because you're learning. You're going to make a few mistakes along the way anyway, so it's not that big a deal. But as you start to get more into it, you're like, okay, I need a special tool. That's when you should start thinking about buying something of quality. I bought a number of tools that were at the, tried to skim by the best of the cheapest, and they all fell apart on me. So,
right. So a poor man can't afford to buy cheap stuff.
That
I said a poor man can't afford to buy cheap stuff.
Unfortunately, you don't get into bonsai to save money.
All right. Now listen. One other question I had is how much time do you have to devote to like that dawn redwood and that maple? Those to me look like really awesome trees that I might want to have around my house. What kind of time commitment am I looking at to take care of those and make them look really cool?
The thing that will scare a lot of people in bonsai is that you start talking about time frames and you start talking about 2, 3 years for this, a couple years for that, and so that tree, I just repot that a couple of weeks ago, and when I was in the middle of repotting it, it turned out that the roots were part of the tree was buried, part of the trunk was buried, and I couldn't see that. And so the root system was actually much lower than I wanted it to be, and it was not a good place to actually show. So with that tree, I had to do a technique called ground layering or air layering, where I removed a section of the bark so I can grow new roots higher up on the trunk. And then once that happens, a year or two from now, the whole bottom will get cut off, and essentially it's like starting that over. So right now, that tree is in a couple of year process. And the branches right now have been thinned out, so there's just a few main branches, and those will be developed a little bit during that time. But that tree in particular, because it had such a heavy root work type of thing done to it, it's going to be a couple of years, at least a year, maybe 2, before any more real heavy work gets done on that. So that one's a little unique, but you could take a piece of nursery material, or a pre-bonsai material, as we call it, and work on that this year, right now, and then possibly repot it in the fall or next winter. And it looks like my power source is about to die.
You're on battery here, huh?
I guess I'm not used to this. I can go plug it in really quick if you want to pause this.
Yeah, because we haven't talked about your show yet, so we have a few more things to talk about. I think. Can you go plug that in? All right, no problem. So now I'm gonna sing everybody a song to keep our audience occupied. Luckily, there's no audience, so I can just edit this video, which I will do when it's all done, and we'll just get rid of that little pause. Yeah, we're gonna edit this video because this is no one's watching this, so I'll just edit this out and we'll clean it up a little bit. Okay, so yeah, so no, my question was how much does it take? Like, if I have a tree, do I have to spend like an hour a month doing it, or is it like an hour a week, or like what kind of time commitment am I looking at to like take care of a bonsai tree?
If you're going to be trimming it, you might spend a couple hours with it. I mean, and it's going to depend on the size too. You've got an average size tree, let's say about a foot tall. It could take you a couple hours to go through and trim something like that. Something that when I do bonsai, I try to slow down, and that's one of the things I like about it. I work long hours, I work hard, I have a side business, 2 kids, a couple dogs. I'm a busy guy. So when I work on my bonsai, it's usually time that I've set aside late at night, or and I really want to focus on what I'm doing. I don't want to just go in and make a bunch of random decisions. You spin your tree around, you look at it, think about it a little while. So it can take a couple hours to work on a tree like that. When you repot, it could be anywhere from an hour, 2 hours. Wiring can take a little bit longer. Sometimes, it could be 5 hours to wire a complete tree that size. So wiring is definitely one of the trickier parts, and one of the things that you need to develop your skills if you're going to you're going to stay in bonsai and try to make good trees.
Okay, so it sounds like you have a lot going on. You have a job and the bonsai thing on the side, and you have 2 kids and a dog and all that. So maybe like if I had a tree, I might think that I need to do like an hour a week. Is that the kind of commitment I'm looking at for
Well,
a
and it
typical
wouldn't be
tree?
necessarily a week. So if you had, let's say you had a juniper, you might work on that as far as trimming goes 2 or maybe 3 times a year, if
Oh,
that.
okay.
But something more like a maple, you could work on that, 3, sometimes 4 times a year as far as your trimming goes. So different trees are going to take more or less time, and it's going to be species dependent. It's one of the
Okay.
it is one of the trickier things is that you'll feel so confident you learned something great about this tree, but it does not apply to that next tree. So learning each little nuance is one of the things I enjoy about it.
Okay. Now, so you mentioned the bonsai club. Can you tell us about this bonsai club a little bit? How many members do you have? How often do you meet? What's that all about?
It's the Santa Cruz Bonsai Kai, and Kai means house. And this is our 27th year. I've been involved 2.5 years, and we have about 85 members, I think, right now. Not all of them are participating. We probably have about 50 members participating pretty regularly, and we meet twice a month. The third Saturday of every month at the Live Oak Grange from 9 to noon, and that's our general meeting where we conduct a little bit of business and reach out to the club and just update everybody on the process. The board will meet before that meeting, and I'm on the board. I'm the vice president right now, and so we're always trying to find new ways to make it bonsai exciting for people by booking new demos and things like that. So we'll have guest artists usually coming in about 7 times a year, 6 or 7 times a year, to those meetings and working on a tree like the maple I showed you earlier and teaching us something about the art of bonsai. We also do a couple of auctions, and we do a garden tour every year where we visit 2 or 3 members' homes and hang out and talk about bonsai and just get to know each other a little better. And um, what else do we do? And then we
That
do
sounds like a lot.
no, it is a lot. Yeah, I've been a part of the program's development the last year, and we did a show prep this last month. So, how to display your bonsai trees, as we're coming into our show this weekend, and that's a big help to a lot of people. Next month, although it's a little late in the season, we are going to do a repotting demo. We do that once a year, so there's a lot of information to be learned at those meetings. And we also do a raffle almost every month at those meetings as well. If there's a demo tree, that will get put into the raffle and will be the big prize. And members will also bring in different types of trees, pots, any kind of bonsai-related item, and put it on the raffle table. And we usually have a pretty good selection of material there. I've gotten a lot of really nice trees off that raffle table, and it can be a great way to start for an inexpensive amount of money. The club, I think the membership's about $40 or $45 your first year, and then that covers your name badge. So the next year it's a little bit less expensive. And so if you want to get into the club, it's a really inexpensive way to get experience in bonsai. And until I joined the club, I was completely clueless to what I was doing. yeah, I joined that club, and the members were just so open-minded and such good people, and everybody wants to help you, and I really fell in love with the community, and that's why I'm still there today and why I'm on the board. We also do another meeting every month on the second Wednesday night where John Thompson from the Midori Bonsai over in San Jose comes over and spends a few minutes with everyone and teaches them whatever they need to know about their tree at that time, and that's a really great way to learn. That's if you're a beginner and you want to learn bonsai, there's really not a better place to start in this county.
All right, great. Now, so the show, you guys have a big show coming up. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, it's our annual show that we put on every year, and this year it's at the Museum of Art and History on Front Street in downtown Santa Cruz. And all the members are encouraged to show their trees, and most of them will. And we put on a really nice display. When you see my trees in my yard here, some of them are going to have, excessive amounts of wire or maybe some raffia on a branch to help protect it from cracking on a heavy bend. But when you put stuff into the show, you try to minimize that as much as possible. We'll clean our pots really nicely. We'll put moss over the top to make it look, to give it more of that sense of age and to just cover up the rough texture of the soil that we use. You'll clean out all the little dead needles or leaves or branches. You'll put it on a really nice stand, and you'll put it together with a little accent plant. Maybe you'll hang a scroll behind it. So when you display your trees, you really take them to that next level, and it really is quite a show. Most people that come in to see the trees are blown away, not just by the trees, but how well we put them into the display.
All right, so when is the actual show? When is it happening?
It's running this weekend, Saturday and Sunday, 10 to 5. And we have demos that start both days at 2 o'clock. And then, let's see, Saturday we will have a demo on a juniper, and Sunday will be a cypress. A gentleman from the East Bay, Mike Costello, he will be doing our demos, and he's been in bonsai, I want to say, around 15 years, started when he was about 14. And he's one of my favorites in the area as far as the young up-and-comers who really know what they're doing. He's got amazing trees at his place, and he's just been a huge help to me. He's a real nice guy. He's like, hey, if you ever have questions, let me know. And he's a great person to learn from. I really enjoy. I've seen him do a few demos, and he's very technically minded, but he's also creative and artistic at the same time. And if you want to really learn something, show up for that demo and see what he has to say, because it'll be fun.
Well, it sounds like even if you are not planning on doing bonsai for like your life, it sounds like there's probably some pretty cool stuff to go check out this weekend down there at the show.
It definitely is, and being at the Museum of Art and History, it fits our motif really well. Our displays blend in with the little bit of art you'll see there. They have 3 levels at the museum, and we will have trees on, I believe, all 3 levels. And even in the little open-air mezzanine level they have upstairs. So there's lots to see, and the whole club will be there for the most part to answer any questions anybody has. We also have a really nice vendor area, so if you think you might want to pick up a tree, you could get a finished bonsai or a tree in training, and any of the supplies, tools, soil, accessories you might need.
All right, very good. Well, I'm going to try and make it down there for a little bit. I mean, it sounds like it's really going to be a cool show. So I'll try and get this up online ASAP, seeing as we need to get the word out in the next, 24 hours at the latest, I would say. So this is Ben. Thanks so much for taking a few minutes to talk about bonsai. It's obviously something that you really love, and I bet you a lot of people would love to discover it too.
I do really love it. It's with my busy life. Everybody needs an outlet, and this is a nice way to do it. I've taken on a little more than most people will. I have right now about 250 trees that I'm caring for, and but probably 80% of those at least are pre-bonsai or trees in training. I have a 2 or 3 dozen trees that I would consider quality bonsai, and so you don't have to be as obsessed as I am by any means. It's really easy to maintain a tree or 2 if you're into it. And uh, I'd say go for it if you're into it.
All right, all right. Well, I'm gonna go check it out. You know, some of those trees you showed us were really pretty incredible. So, Ben, thanks so much. You have any final thoughts before we wrap it up here?
Just if there's ever any questions you've got, you can find me on Facebook at I Dig Trees, and I'm happy to help.
All right, and you have a website too, idigtrees.com. Is that right?
I do. Yeah, I do. And my website's just getting started, so I'm looking to start my blog next month, and I'll start having a lot of other stuff up there as well.
All right, very good. Okay, so everybody look for his blog, and you guys meet the third Saturday of every month at the Soquel Grange if you want to come check the club out. And then
Live Oak Grange.
Oh, the Live Oak Grange.
Live Oak Grange, and then the Wednesday workshops are for members at the Aptos Grange.
Oh, okay. All right. So you have every Wednesday at the Aptos Grange?
Second Wednesday.
Every second Wednesday at the Aptos Grange. All right. I love Aptos. Okay, great. Well, Ben, thank you so much for spending some time with us, man, and I'll see you soon.
All right. Thanks, Ab.
All right. Thanks, Ben.